The galaxy was not kind. Stars burned bright, but their light could not warm the worlds of the Deathworlders, a proud alien race who ruled their sector with iron hands. Their cities floated above shattered landscapes. Their fleets patrolled the void like predators. They believed no one could challenge them, and they were right until now. But disaster had begun. A rival alien faction had struck without warning. Explosions tore through the Deathworlder capital. Towers crumbled. Bridges collapsed. Firestorms raced across plains once filled with green crystal forests. The skies glowed red. The ground shook like the planet itself was dying. Thousands of Deathworlders ran, their claws and wings scraping the scarred earth. Ships tried to lift off, but the enemy had cut the launch bays. Fleet after fleet was destroyed before it could leave orbit. The Deathworlders had faced war before, but nothing like this. Their own technology, once unmatched, seemed weak. The invaders moved too fast. They struck from shadows and space alike. Every move was calculated to destroy, and nothing the Deathworlders did could stop it. On the surface, the streets were littered with bodies. Fires burned in the distance. The air was thick with smoke and screaming. Survivors huddled in ruins, wondering how everything had fallen apart so quickly. Leaders who once commanded respect now fled like children. Hope was gone. Fear and pain filled every mind. Amid the chaos, one young Deathworlder looked up at the stars. The enemy fleet above burned like silver comets. The cries of his people echoed in his chest. His world, his home, his entire life was slipping away. And still, somewhere far beyond the battle, a faint signal pulsed from the void, a signal no one had noticed before. It was weak, almost meaningless. At first glance, it seemed nothing. A single dot in a sea of chaos. But something about it made him pause. Something he could not understand. No one knew where it came from. No one had ever seen it before. And no one thought it mattered. Humans, they thought. Tiny, fragile, insignificant creatures living on a quiet world. They would never come close to the stars, let alone the wars of the galaxy. The thought barely touched the mind of the dying Deathworlder, yet somehow, the signal stirred a memory of hope, faint and fragile, like a candle in a storm. But the enemy did not care about hope. Their ships rained destruction. Mountains were broken. Oceans boiled. Entire cities vanished in moments. Death was everywhere, and there was no escape. The young Deathworlder ran, dodging debris and fire, seeking a safe place to survive. Every step was heavy. Every breath burned. Every heartbeat was a reminder that he was alone, that his world was lost. And then, just as he thought he had found shelter, the ground beneath him shifted. A massive crater opened nearby, glowing with strange energy. He froze. It was not natural, not part of any weapon he had seen. It pulsed, alive in a way he could not explain. The air shimmered around it. The screams of the dying fell silent for a moment. Something new had arrived, something he could not name. The Deathworlder stared at the glow, fear rising in his chest. Whatever it was coming from the signal. Whatever it was, it had the power to change everything. But change for whom? And at what cost? His world was gone. His people were dying. And now, the unknown had arrived, watching, waiting, and perhaps deciding the fate of the galaxy itself. Somewhere beyond the chaos zone, the humans existed. Weak, small, insignificant, unknown to the aliens, yet connected to the pulse that now lit the young Deathworlder's eyes. He did not know it, but this signal, this tiny flicker from a fragile species, would one day rewrite the rules of the galaxy. For now, he could only run, and watch, and pray. The young Deathworlder barely escaped the crater's edge. His world was shattered, but something about the strange pulse lingered in his mind. He did not understand it. It was faint, almost like a whisper across the stars, yet it carried a rhythm he had never felt before. He could not stop thinking about it, even as firestorms chased him across broken plains. Far beyond the chaos zone, humans moved quietly on their small blue planet. They were fragile, weak, and unarmed compared to the fleets of the galaxy. Their weapons could barely scratch a metal hull. Their ships were tiny, slow, and almost laughable. From the aliens' perspective, they were nothing, just another species waiting to die in the shadow of stronger powers. But humans were different in ways no alien could measure. They were stubborn, refusing to give up even when the odds were impossible. They could feel fear and pain, yet keep moving forward. Even on a planet far from the chaos zone, they trained, experimented, and prepared, though they did not yet know why. Their survival depended on more than strength. It depended on heart, creativity, and a refusal to surrender. On Earth, storms battered the cities. Humanity suffered in silence, fighting against nature rather than alien weapons. Entire regions were flooded. Forests burned. Food became scarce. People struggled, losing homes, loved ones, and safety. Still, they adapted. They built shelters stronger than the floods, dug wells deeper than the dry riverbeds, and learned to move with the storms instead of being crushed by them. Pain forged power, and every loss became a lesson. No alien watched these struggles. No alien noticed the humans' small victories. From a distance, humans seemed weak, slow, and insignificant. The Deathworlder, focused on his dying world, could not imagine that these tiny beings would matter in the chaos unfolding across the stars. Yet the faint pulse that had reached him, the mysterious signal from Earth, had begun its journey through space, carrying a hint of human stubbornness, ingenuity, and determination. Meanwhile, the young Deathworlder struggled to survive. Every step brought more danger. Collapsing buildings, falling ships, and fires threatened his life. He thought he could escape nothing, yet something pushed him onward. Hope, fragile as it was, burned inside him. The pulse from the humans called to him, though he did not understand why. It was weak, silent, almost invisible, yet it was enough to make him pause, look up at the stars, and wonder. Humans did not yet know their place in the galaxy. They did not know that their curiosity, their stubbornness, and their refusal to die would one day become a force the universe could not ignore. From the alien perspective, they were insignificant, almost invisible, but that invisibility was their advantage. They could grow, adapt, and survive where others could not, slowly, quietly, without anyone noticing. And so the Deathworlder ran. He ran past ruins, through fire and smoke, while somewhere far away, humans struggled and learned, unnoticed and untested. The galaxy believed humans were weak, unimportant, and defenseless. Yet the signal that had reached the Deathworlder hinted at something more, a spark in the dark, a tiny ember that would one day become a wildfire. The young Deathworlder did not know what it meant. He did not know what the humans were capable of. He only knew that danger had reached his world, that his people were dying, and that this faint signal carried a mystery he could not ignore. And somewhere in the void, that signal continued to pulse, waiting, growing, and quietly promising that the story of humans was far from over. The Deathworlder stumbled through the ruins, his claws scorched and wings torn, but he was still alive. Around him, his once great city smoldered like a graveyard. Smoke twisted into the sky, painting the stars red. The enemy fleet had vanished for now, leaving nothing but ruin, but he knew this was only the beginning. Something deeper, darker, waited beyond the chaos zone. From the depths of the galaxy, the real threat revealed itself. The rival faction had not come to conquer one planet alone. Their plan was far greater, far more devastating than any ordinary war. They had weaponized the chaos zones, turning them into living death traps. Stars could collapse. Planets could vanish. Entire systems could be erased in hours. The Deathworlder's homeworld had been only the first test, the first warning. The Deathworlder realized he could do nothing alone. Every fleet he had commanded was gone. Every ally either dead or scattered. He ran, scavenging scraps of ships and technology, patching them together with little hope. Pain and fear burned in his chest, but a stubborn spark refused to die. He had survived the first attack, and he would survive the second, even if the galaxy itself seemed to be collapsing around him. Meanwhile, on Earth, humans carried on unaware. Their storms continued. Their cities continued to struggle, yet in every hardship, humans adapted. Engineers built stronger shelters. Scientists improvised new ways to purify water. People worked together, even in despair. From the alien perspective, they were weak, barely able to hold their fragile world together. Yet their persistence, their ability to endure, was a seed no alien had noticed. Back in the Chaos Zone, the Deathworlder tracked the pulse of the mysterious signal he had first seen. It was faint, almost too small to measure, yet it carried a strange rhythm that seemed alive. He did not understand why. But the signal felt different from anything he had known. It was not alien, not enemy, and not part of the destruction. It was human, small, fragile, and insignificant, yes, but something about it hinted at power yet unseen. The enemy returned. Shadows of massive ships reappeared, faster, smarter, and more precise than before. They swept through space like a storm, crushing everything in their path. The Deathworlder barely escaped. He watched helplessly as planets were destroyed, moons shattered, and entire civilizations vanished without warning. Every second brought new terror. Every move was a test of survival. The galaxy seemed to punish him at every turn. Yet he ran on. Stubbornness, pain, and fear drove him forward. His mind clung to the faint human signal like a lifeline. He did not know what humans could do. He did not know if they could help. All he knew was that this faint pulse represented hope, and hope was the only thing stronger than fear. Then he saw it. A small fleet of tiny ships, barely bigger than the size of his hand from orbit. At first, he laughed at them. Weak, insignificant. How could they matter in the face of a galactic weapon? But even as he doubted, he noticed something. The ships moved in ways that defied expectation. They avoided destruction. They adapted to obstacles instantly, and the faint signal seemed to guide them. Something in the tiny, fragile humans allowed them to survive where the strongest Deathworlder fleets had failed. The Deathworlder's eyes widened. Could it be possible? Could these small, fragile creatures from a distant, insignificant world really have a role in this chaos? The thought was terrifying and impossible, yet he could not ignore it. The signal grew stronger, pulsing faster, as if calling him, warning him, urging him toward a discovery he was not ready to face. And then, in the distance, he saw the edge of the weaponized chaos zone, a storm of energy and destruction unlike anything the galaxy had ever known. Stars bent, space cracked, entire fleets were vaporized before they could approach. And at the center, the faint human signal pulsed brighter than ever, as if waiting, as if daring the Deathworlder to come closer. He swallowed fear and ran toward it, knowing that what he would find could change everything, or end everything. The Deathworlder moved closer to the heart of the Chaos Zone. The storm of energy roared around him, tearing at the sky, bending metal, and shattering rock. Every instinct screamed to flee, but he could not. Something about the faint human signal pulled him forward, strange and persistent, as if it had a will of its own. From orbit, the alien observers laughed. Insignificant humans, they said, watching Earth and its tiny ships through massive telescopes. They are weak. They are slow. They could never survive the Chaos Zone. Nothing about them matters. They did not understand that what they dismissed as weakness was something far more dangerous. Persistence, courage, and the refusal to surrender. On Earth, humans struggled through storms, famine, and disease. Their world was fragile, their technology primitive compared to the alien fleets, yet they adapted. They built rafts for floods, shelters for firestorms, and devices to track strange cosmic signals. Every loss, every hardship became a lesson. Pain strengthened them. Fear could not stop them. They moved forward, unaware that the galaxy itself was watching. The Deathworlder watched too. From a distance, the tiny human ships moved with a strange intelligence. They dodged debris and storms in ways that seemed impossible. They survived attacks that should have destroyed them. And still, the human signal pulsed, faint but insistent, a rhythm like a heartbeat across the void. It called him, warned him, and teased him with something he could not yet understand. The alien fleet above the Chaos Zone prepared to strike. They believed the Deathworlder was alone and vulnerable. They believed humans were meaningless. They did not anticipate stubbornness, resilience, or adaptation. And they had no idea that the humans' tiny presence could change the outcome of everything. As the Deathworlder entered the inner chaos, the storm pulsed violently. Energy waves cracked space itself. Ships were shredded by unseen forces. The Deathworlder struggled to keep moving, battered and exhausted. Yet the signal from humans glowed stronger, cutting through the storm like a beacon of strange hope. He could not see them. He could barely imagine them. And yet, somehow, they mattered more than anything else in the galaxy at that moment. The enemy fleet closed in. Massive warships filled the sky, their weapons primed and ready. They laughed at the Deathworlder, confident he would die before reaching the core. They laughed at the humans, calling them fragile and irrelevant. But the Deathworlder had seen enough to doubt their arrogance. Even in their smallness, humans had a stubbornness he could not ignore, a will to survive that bent the rules of life and death. And then, as he neared the center of the chaos zone, the impossible happened. Tiny flashes of movement appeared in the storm, so small he almost dismissed them. But they moved with purpose, coordinated in ways no alien fleet could predict. The Deathworlder's heart pounded. Could it be them? Could humans, insignificant and weak, be surviving here, at the very center of this living storm? He could not know. He could only watch and wonder and feel a spark of fear and hope at the same time. The storm roared louder, the alien fleet closed in, and the tiny movements of the humans became more distinct. There was something alive in them, something unstoppable, though he could not yet see the full power. And in that moment, the Deathworlder realized that what he had thought was hopeless, what the galaxy had dismissed as weak and fragile, might be more dangerous than any weapon or fleet he had ever known. The signal pulsed brighter. Something waited at the center. Something alive, something human, something the galaxy had not expected. The Chaos Zone shook violently as the Deathworlder advanced. Energy storms tore at his ship, bending metal and scorching his skin. Everywhere, destruction raged. Entire fleets were shredded by invisible forces. Planets in the distance flickered and died. The enemy believed victory was inevitable, yet the Deathworlder pressed on, drawn toward the faint human signal that now pulsed stronger than ever. On Earth, humans did not know the galaxy was watching. Their world was small, fragile, and battered by storms. Yet they continued. Engineers repaired what should have been broken beyond hope. Scientists devised clever solutions to problems no one else would have imagined. Farmers planted crops in strange, infertile soil. They adapted, learning from failure. Every hardship made them faster, smarter, and stronger. Pain was their teacher, and fear was their fuel. The tiny human fleet in the Chaos Zone moved like nothing the aliens had seen. Ships barely larger than the size of a shuttle dodged impossible debris, storms, and attacks. Every move was precise, yet flexible. Every strategy seemed to anticipate disaster before it arrived. The Deathworlder watched, astonished. Weak? Yes. Insignificant? Perhaps. But brilliant in a way no alien had ever considered. Humanity's stubbornness, their refusal to surrender, made them unpredictable, unstoppable. The enemy fleet grew frustrated. Their massive weapons fired repeatedly, yet the humans survived every strike. Ships that should have been destroyed reappeared in ways that defied physics. The aliens laughed at first, then shouted in panic. They had never seen anything like this. They had expected weakness. They had expected surrender. And yet these fragile creatures adapted to every obstacle, learned from every mistake, and refused to die. The Deathworlder realized the truth. Humans were not strong in the way the galaxy measured strength. They were dangerous because they could endure, because they could learn, because they could suffer and keep going. Their hearts, their minds, their stubbornness. These were weapons no alien had accounted for, and the signal that had reached him now pulsed like a warning, like a beacon of unstoppable force. Humans began to act directly. They repaired the Chaos Zone's drifting wreckage and redirected energy flows to stabilize collapsing sectors. They used the enemy's own weapons against them. Tiny fleets infiltrated massive ships, disabling systems, confusing commanders, and turning chaos into opportunity. They moved without fear, without hesitation. Death was not an end to them. It was simply another problem to solve, another challenge to overcome. The Deathworlder's eyes widened. What he had thought was a small, insignificant species was now changing the battlefield. The human pulse that had called to him now filled the Chaos Zone with rhythm and purpose. Each movement, each choice, each act of stubborn survival sent shockwaves through the enemy ranks. Aliens who had laughed now froze, uncertain, terrified, unable to anticipate the humans' next move. At the center of the Chaos Zone, the humans approached the core of the enemy weapon. Tiny, fragile ships moved with precision. Every strike, every maneuver, every adaptation weakened the impossible machine. The Deathworlder watched in awe and disbelief. Humans were turning the tide. Humans were dominating where no one had thought it possible. The galaxy's most feared faction had underestimated them, and that mistake was proving fatal. And then, as the core trembled and the storm reached its peak, the signal pulsed one last time, brighter, stronger, almost alive. It was no longer faint. It was a roar in the void. The Deathworlder understood, finally, that humans had become a force the galaxy could not ignore. The impossible was happening. The weak were winning. And the universe itself was about to learn the cost of underestimating humanity. The storm of the Chaos Zone finally began to settle. The massive energy core at its heart flickered and died, collapsing in on itself. Ships that had once been unstoppable now floated powerless in orbit. The enemy fleet scattered, leaderless and broken, unable to comprehend what had just happened. And at the center, the humans, tiny, fragile, and underestimated, still moved, still surviving, still adapting. The Deathworlder hovered above the devastation, his eyes wide with awe. He had seen the worst the galaxy could deliver, and he had thought it unbeatable. But humans had endured. They had suffered every impossible obstacle, adapted at every turn, and emerged victorious where even the strongest alien fleets had failed. Their stubbornness, their refusal to surrender, and their courage had rewritten the rules of the Chaos Zone. From afar, alien empires watched. Systems that had once mocked humanity now trembled. Reports flooded every capital. Humans had turned a galaxy-ending weapon into rubble. Humans had survived the Chaos Zone where millions had perished. Humans had shown resilience and strategy beyond any known alien calculation. Fear and respect replaced laughter. The fragile species of Earth was no longer insignificant. The Deathworlder touched his chest, feeling a strange pulse that mirrored the signal he had first noticed. Humans were still unknown in full, still fragile, yet they had become a force no one could ignore. Their will, their creativity, their sheer determination had done what machines and fleets could not. He finally understood. Humans were dangerous not because of their strength, but because they could endure, adapt, and never give up. The galaxy began to shift. Planets once thought secure reinforced their defenses, alien factions reconsidered their alliances, and the Chaos Zone became a testament to human cunning and bravery. Whispers spread. Never underestimate humans. Entire species now feared what humanity might do next. The Deathworlder knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity had survived the impossible, and that survival was a warning to the universe. Back on Earth, humans returned to their lives, battered but victorious. They did not yet know the full weight of their actions. They did not yet see how the galaxy had watched, how it had measured their persistence, or how it had been shocked by their refusal to die. They only knew that they survived. And survival, they understood instinctively, was everything. Yet even in triumph, mystery remained. The faint pulse that had first guided the Deathworlder continued to echo across the stars. It hinted at greater challenges, larger threats, and unknown forces that still waited in the darkness. Humans had proven themselves, but the galaxy was vast, and danger was endless. The story was not over. It had only just begun. And somewhere, in the far reaches of space, an alien presence noticed the human signal. It pulsed again, stronger, sharper, alive in ways no one had yet imagined. The universe paused for a moment, as if holding its breath. Humans, fragile and underestimated, had survived the Chaos Zone. And now, the galaxy knew they were coming. Word count, 600 words.